rise for silent invocation followed by pledge allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilman Foley?
Here.
Councilman Gephardt?
Here.
Councilman Green?
Here.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Here.
Mayor Stiltner?
Here. Item 4, public comments on consent agenda items only. All right, seeing none. Item 5, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? How about a motion for the approval of consent agenda items 6, 7, and 8?
Motion to approve 6 through 8.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Motion to approve agenda items 6 through 8.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
We have to do a roll call. There's
I'm sorry, we do
resolution,
have a
Mr. Mayor.
resolution on there. Yeah, resolution. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Stiltner?
Yes. Consent passes 5-0. Public participation on agenda. Let's see here. How about Barbara Ann Hegan and Kristen Johansson? Come on up. How are you guys tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city attorney, and city manager. We are excited to introduce one of our new programs to you and to the residents of the city of Port Orange. It is through the Kauffman Foundation. We have been certified, we've taken the training, we're an affiliate partner, and we're running this course that will start on February 1st for 10 weeks. We're partnering with the city of Ormond Beach, and they are the lead agency running this program, and we're there to share the knowledge. So it's about writing a business plan and facilitating marketing. And we encourage, the application is on our website. Additionally, I'd like to invite all of the council members to the mayor's dinner, which is February 26th. That is at the Shores Resort, and we will be featuring our wonderful mayor in front of us, Scott Stiltner, along with our other mayors from the city of Daytona Beach Shores, the town of Ponce Inlet, as well as the city of South Daytona. And on that note, we also want to thank Chief Marino for providing the color guard to us, which is a very special ceremony. And on that, I'd like to introduce our Vice Chair for Workforce Development, Kristen Johansson.
Good evening, gentlemen. I just wanted to come forth and thank you all again for a lot of the support that you do provide us in the workforce development realm. We have a couple projects with you all. One, our youth leadership program that has been happening for 7 years now, every June, and your staff has been significantly involved in that from the beginning, and you all have been very supportive from the beginning, so we look forward to that again in June. And a newer program that we just started last year, on the suggestion of Mayor Stiltner, is our teen job fair that we started last May. And the goal of that is to provide opportunities for businesses and for businesses that cater to those younger, that have opportunities for those younger students. So everything from about age 16 through graduating seniors. We're going to do that again this year on May 17th. It's a Saturday. We've already coordinated with city staff for that to be held at the rec, and we look forward to collaboration on that again this year, and growing it and making it even better than last year. So thank you all so much for that.
I just want to just a quick comment on the job fair for all of council and all of staff and anybody listening and participating. I would encourage you to get a hold of one of these two folks if you know any businesses in our city that would be interested in offering up opportunities and jobs, especially for our high school age folks, those particularly that are graduating from high school that don't necessarily plan to go off to college. So a lot of them are looking for jobs, and it was very well attended last year, I thought, and for, you know, these things tend to grow and they get better with time. And so last year, right out of the gate, I thought it was pretty nice. So.
And we're aiming for a good mix of everything from part-time jobs for the younger students to those jobs that can be career career leading for your 18-year-olds and beyond.
Gotcha.
What was that date again?
May 17th. It's a Saturday from 9 to noon at the Rec.
I have someone in mind. If you don't mind, just shoot me a quick
I'll see you right at the end. Absolutely. I'll text
So
you.
okay, that'd be
Thank you,
fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, and I do apologize if I mispronounce anybody's names in advance. How about Jennifer and Eden Kalustian? Did I get even close?
How are you guys?
Hi, welcome.
Thank you for having us. I wanted to come in front of you guys. My name is Jennifer Kalustian. I'm a citizen of Port Orange and a mother of 2 beautiful children. Eden is 1, Beckham is over there, he's 13. I'm an active working member in our community serving post-orthopedic surgery patients, performing in-home physical therapy with them. I have come here today to discuss our local community placing a stop on the outdated practice of water fluoridation. When fluoride was first added to our water system in the 1940s, it was added as a means to prevent tooth decay. And at that time, there was not a lot of fluoride products on the market, if any. No toothpaste, no mouthwash. Currently, most over-the-counter products for dental, for teeth, are containing fluoride, okay? Mouthwash, toothpaste. So, due to our community continuing to add the unsafe industrial waste byproducts, known as silicofluorides, to artificially elevate the fluoride content to 0.7 parts per million in our water, we are now seeing an opposite effect. Our children, ourselves, and our family members are being exposed to higher levels of fluoride. Overexposure to fluoride can cause a range of adverse health effects, including lower IQ in children and also skeletal effects with decreased bone strength and density. There's actually a diagnosis called skeletal fluorosis. So current data indicates that daily doses our community is coming into contact with are between 6 to 9 milligrams a day of fluoride. I believe that we need to place fluoride on the agenda for the next meeting so that this matter can be voted on. Many local city councils in Florida have already decided to end fluoridation. And in fact, we just received an email that on February 24th at the meeting up in New Smyrna Beach, that New Smyrna Beach Utilities is actually going to vote and recommend against fluoridation of water. My hopes that our city council will follow suit when it comes to artificial water fluoridation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
All right, it's your turn.
Yes. Let's read. You're good.
My name is Eden, and I am 11 years old. I would like to talk about the fluoride that is being added to our water system. Too much fluoride in our water can affect people of all ages. While I choose not to go into specifics, I will say that on November 22nd, 2024, our State Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Lapato, announced guidance recommending against community water fluoridation. We are hoping that fluoride will be added to the agenda at the next meeting so that it could be voted on. Thank you.
Well done, Eden. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
Thank you
speaking.
so much.
Thank you.
Felicia Morrissey.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Welcome.
I'm just going to be a little bit redundant, I guess, to what Jennifer and Eden just spoke about. and longtime resident here of Port Orange, probably longer than most of you are old. Family entrenched in public service here in Port Orange. My husband was a retired firefighter, Port Orange, here for 26 years. My son also worked for the city, and due to the grace and honor of this commission, prior commission, Fire Station 1 is named in his behalf. But the subject to be is about fluoride, and the FDA has deemed fluoride a treatment. And as such, as a treatment, the one thing that we are lacking as it being in the water system is that we don't have informed consent. So no one has the right to, with any medical treatment, to say yes or no. With it being in the water system, we don't have that right. So I think that is something that we as citizens deserve. As Jennifer mentioned, many cities, and actually more than half of the counties in the state of Florida now, are fluoride free. That's just counties, not even the cities, the entire county. And a number of counties recently, Melbourne, Palm Bay, Tavares, I can't even remember now, have increasingly, as a result of the Surgeon General's recommendation at the end of last year, have decided to eliminate this in the city's water supply. So my request is just simply that the city would respectfully put it on the agenda so that we could maybe have further discussion about it and maybe put it up for a vote. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Palmer Vloggy. Sorry, Palmer. I know I didn't get that one right. I get the first name right at least?
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes, thank you. Hello, Commissioners. To be redundant, we do not want fluoride in the water anymore. A federal judge recently ruled against the EPA that fluoride is a neurotoxin which damages the brain and reduces IQ. As already stated, Dr. Latipo concurs with the ruling and recommends the entire state remove it from the water supply. As some of the other participants already said, you've got negative health effects such as ADHD, sleep cycle disturbances, skeletal fluorosis, premature menstruation in adolescent girls, and suppression of the thyroid gland. Fluoride is a drug, and we do not consent to it being added to the water. You can't control the dosage. A 300-pound man and a baby is getting the same dosage. We don't put statins in the water for cholesterol or blood pressure medications or antidepressants, so why would we put fluoride in the water? The FDA also says it's a medical treatment, and unfortunately you guys are not all doctors. So the Patient Bill of Rights 381.026 requires that the patient be provided informed consent, a risk-benefit analysis, and the ability to opt out, which is clearly not happening. The fluoride is also not naturally occurring. It's not pharmaceutical-grade sodium fluoride, but as stated earlier, it's hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a waste product from the phosphate fertilizer industry. There's no safety studies on this, and instead of them properly disposing of it, we're footing the bill at $30,000 to $300,000 a year in taxpayer money, depending on the size of the city. The packages contain a skull and crossbones, is highly corrosive to metal, is very dangerous to your utility workers, and hazmat has to be called if it's spilled. Your own water department has MSDS sheets on these chemicals. So your city manager should share these with all of you and the attorney. Your own sheets prove that the city is adding a poison to the water. Florida Statute 859.01 addresses the poisoning of food and water. And certainly with this new information and Dr. Latipo's testimony, an attorney could have a field day if a city ignores the warnings and continues to fluoridate. Most of the world does not fluoridate. The U.S. fluoridates more than the whole world combined, with a statistical difference of almost zero in dental health. Portland, Oregon, where I'm actually from in Oregon, and Marco Island, along with numerous other communities in Florida, have never added fluoride, and these communities do not have a crisis of dental health. More than half of the counties in Florida are already fluoride free, and many more are joining in the last year. And as mentioned, New Smyrna Beach is recommending discontinuing it here very soon. The public should have a right to choose what goes in their water, because where there's risk, there must be choice. It's not fair to force drugs on people who don't want them. If people want to supplement fluoride, they can on their own, but city officials do not have the right to play doctor and add drugs to the public water supply. Please add this to your agenda as soon as possible. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Josh Counts. Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hi, Mayor. Good. How are you?
Good.
Hello, Commissioners, City Attorney. Just a couple things. My name is Joshua. I'm also the President of the Association. That doesn't mean anything but a headache. But Amber Village over by Sugar Mill, which I just found out he is in our zone, which is good so we can communicate. There's a lot of, unfortunately, we had the child that passed away, which I had seen that actually and was, taking my kid to school when that happened. That community is kind of off in the corner, and it's really kind of hidden, and the police really don't patrol it as much as they should. The only reason I'm here, I have a list of things which I'll get to you eventually, but the main thing is the speeding in that community. There's literally burnouts all over 6th Street. There's, you got Herbert, you have Amber Circle, Ashley Circle, Charles, McDonald. We have kids. It's not just in the school zone this is happening. It's all throughout the day. 90% of my residents are seniors. They're out there all day long, so 90% of the time what they're going to tell you is right. We do need to address that. The other thing is at my personal address, 1017 Amber Circle, which is where I live, the FPL pole from the last storm is still laying by the sidewalk, and they have refused 13 calls to come pick it up. Also, the bottom half of that pole is as well still sitting in my yard. My daughter took a tumble and busted her head yesterday from that, so they won't do anything. So I'm asking if you guys could reach out and see if you can help us with FPL or putting in a work order. Or the city was out there picking up all the debris months later, seeing if they can handle that. I don't want to ramble on, but realistically, we have a school there. We have a lot of seniors there on walkers. Also, without the FPL pole, we have 9 people, one with brain cancer, that can't ride around on the scooter because he can't see at night. So we need to really address that community, as a whole, and see if we can get some help. Sidewalks are all broken up everywhere. I've done the clickets on those as well. So it's a risk when you have a lot of seniors as well. They're on walkers and canes. They like to get out and walk around. We need to try to fix that for them. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for serving the city.
Thanks,
you.
Josh. Hey, do me a favor. One of the clerk here will have one of my cards.
Already.
There you go. Send me an email or whatever, and I'll get on the phone with you. We'll talk. Or hang around till after the meeting if you'd like to. But
It's not till midnight.
no promises.
Frank. That's the exact one. How'd you guess? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I agree with the fluoride people. That's not why I'm here.
All right.
My name is Frank Belot. A little information about me. I grew up on a small farm in the village called Fredonia, New York. As a young man, I learned right from wrong. I have a 12th grade education, and I also have common sense. It cannot be learned in school or taught in college. You either have it or you don't. I'd like to meet each and every one of you gentlemen at some point. I have the time to get my own take on that. I now live in a 55-plus community called Colony in the Wood with my wife Debbie of 48 years. We purchased our home 5 years ago. It felt like home. All was good until Hurricane Ian in 2022 and again in October 2024 with Hurricane Milton. We endured devastating flooding. Some people lost everything. Our colony neighbors came together and helped each other like they should. On the front page of the News Journal, November 4th, 2024, the headline read, FEMA aid could be at risk. And Port Orange would be sending approximately 400 warning letters to 4 mobile home parks. Warning for what? This remark, wrong page. the city of Port Orange is trying to the city of Port Orange is attempting to make a situation they created my problem. I don't think so, guys. The News Journal article prompted me to investigate further. The first letter I received from the city on May 9, 2023 was offensive. It was mostly incorrect, except for my address. The second letter from the city, dated October 28, 2024, was even more offensive, stating that our home was now substantially damaged. Guys, substantially damaged. I would like someone to explain to me how the city of Port Orange values our home at $24,200. Woo! Big money. When the flood insurance values our home and contents at $87,400, and homeowners insurance can't insure it for less than $90,000 plus. Fact. I can guarantee you that Collingwood is not a mobile home park. On May 15th, 1976, the federal government instituted that all homes built from this day...
I apologize, I gotta interrupt you. Your 3 minutes has expired.
Already?
But, yeah, I know it goes by fast, so...
I could go on for hours.
But we get the gist of what you're talking about. If you'll stick around for a few moments, we're gonna have some
I'd love
comments,
to.
okay? No problem.
Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Kathleen Tarnow? Welcome.
Welcome, thank you, good evening. My name is Kathleen Tarnow, 791 Sugar Cane Lane, Sugar Forest. My son's also here, he's a Sugar Forest resident. I previously addressed this council at the November meeting. At that time, I was addressing the concern of all the flooded homeowners of Sugar Forest in Port Orange. That is still my concern, as well as addressing an issue relating to my backyard. The east end of Sugar Forest has a retention pond, which has a small drainage pipe that runs underground along the southern boundary, and there is a drain grate opening in my backyard. This is an open drainage grate that also has a drain pipe entering from the south and drains the Banbury subdivision. I have floodwater potential from 2 sources coming into my backyard, the east retention pond in Banbury. Approximately 20 years ago, when we did have an active HOA, the city piped a 6x6 open ditch and covered it with an inadequate sized pipe. Homeowners have been advised this is not city property in spite of this work by the city. Who is responsible for this inadequate drainage system? The opening directed west was enlarged somewhat after Hurricane Ian. Prior to Ian, it even backed up because a turtle got stuck in the pipe. That's how small the pipe is. What is the plan going forward on another issue? I was checking on the plan for the Pepper Hill parcel. There was talk the city was purchasing several homes at the east entrance to Sugar Forest for stormwater management purposes. Is that correct? Is the parcel at Madeline and Nova being considered for stormwater management purposes? Sadly, there are 5 or 6 of my longtime neighbors that are attempting to sell and move to higher ground. I am not. However, awaiting flood funds to be released for ongoing repairs is beyond stressful. If you haven't experienced the stress of navigating flood repair, insurance inspection, and awaiting funds, you can't begin to understand the stress. In addition to the Sugar Forest flooding concerns, the hoarder has returned and is filling his lot with trash and now 2 vehicles. My neighbor Chuck, I know, has been very active, and I know the city is aware of that as well as the city attorney, and we're hopeful that that can be resolved.
We are too, 100%.
So I look forward to hearing answers to some of my questions. And again, I implore the city to be continued good stewards and protect our city I love my city of Port Orange. I've been here 47 years, as I've told you before. I've raised my children here, and he's a New Smyrna firefighter, 21 years. So we're staying.
Good.
So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to some answers. I did get some tonight before the meeting, which were very helpful and encouraging, and I look forward to the meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the community center with some presentations. So thank you all.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we don't normally do this, interject, and we won't make a habit of it, but I know sometimes what I've seen in the past is a few folks have got places to go and they make their comments and they leave. And I just want to touch on this for the folks that are from Sugar Forest and some of these other areas, that in March we will be having a comprehensive workshop. You guys have heard us speak a couple of times about our master stormwater plan, and that has wrapped up. It's been a long time coming since Ian. It was a heavy investment by you folks in our city. And I will tell you specifically that that regional area is one of the areas that was most important for us to have potential projects evaluated and modeled in that plan. It's good. The modeling that we're seeing, and I'll just say that it's positive, it brings me hope. But so don't go away, but in March, please come to that meeting, because I think a lot of the questions that we all want to have answered and that you guys all want to have answered, that's where that's going to happen. So that doesn't mean stuff's not happening in the meantime, because it is, very much so. But a lot of those questions and that modeling, I think, is going to shed a lot of light on what can be done and what we want to pursue. So I just want to mention that, because I know sometimes folks will get up and leave. So Shirley Rice. Welcome, Shirley.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, welcome.
I have emailed you multiple times and it never goes through.
No?
No. So when I brought my original letter that I sent to the council, if you'll make sure people get copies of that. Okay, I too am one of the flood victims, and what she said. I will see you tomorrow night, and I will also make a presentation about more of what's in that letter. But as this other gentleman said, we're getting letters from a lady called Valerie Dool. And it says here that she is a community development engineer and a certified floodplain manager. Why is she doing the victim blaming that she's doing now, and we're getting these letters that say, oh, you've been you're messed up. I had some gentleman come to my door the other day. I was home alone, and he wanted to come into my house and inspect it, and I told him, no, I don't let strange people into my house. And now I've got this letter, and I've got enough to do with repairing the damage and working with the insurance. Yes, I have FEMA insurance. And I don't need the city griping at me too. So I would like to have her evaluated and find out if what she's doing is actually a help. Also, I did look at your meeting that you did at the very first time, and it looks like you need a liaison from the city to the property owners, so that those who want to hear about what's going on with the flood and how we're fixing it will have somebody to find out from. So you really need to appoint a liaison, and not Valerie. And you know, I've done a lot of work in teaching and doing all kinds of things. I'm a retired nurse. I would like to be part of the solution, not continue just being a problem and a complainer. I want to help. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there that want to do that too. So you have my name, you have my number, you have all kinds of ways of getting a hold of me. And thank you for hearing what I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thanks, Shirley.
Please stick around if you can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Lorraine Becker. You stumped me with the Lorraine for just a moment. welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, council members and Mayor Stiltner. A couple of concerns today. You did address one. 4 months ago, it was stated that the stormwater plan was 90% complete. My question was, where is it now? Now I know that in March you're going to be reviewing that. However, I did have a conversation with engineering about my particular community, by the way, 865 Christie Drive, District 1. I live right behind Sugar Forest. I share that wonderful ditch that we're all trying to figure out who owns so that somebody can clean it. Okay, so stormwater plan is in action. That's great. 2 meetings ago, it was suggested by Councilman Grubbs regarding possibility of a stormwater advisory committee. I believe this committee will keep the council accountable and give residents a path of communication for their concerns. I think that's a great idea, Commissioner Grubbs. Keep us posted on that. Third, I would like to continue the discussion on local hazard, municipal hazard mitigation to reduce flooding in the neighborhoods. I did attend the Volusia County HAZMIT emergency management meeting, 2 of them, by the way. I was the only one representing Port Orange. I was there with Valerie at the second one, the conclusion at the EOC building, where we did discuss Elevate Florida. It was launched, Elevate Florida. A lot of people are aware of that. It's coming. I assume you will be presenting that tomorrow at the meeting. That is a big part of the conversation for sure. But most importantly, regarding my community in the Sugar Forest, Sugar Mill area, this is my 3rd request for Public Works / engineering to consider cleaning the ditches in the Sugar Forest area. We are 4 months now in since Milton, and still we have not seen a local municipal hazard mitigation plan. Now, the emergency manager, Clint Meekum, stated to me specifically, you have to go to your local council to work on this. This is not a county funded situation. It's about you making sure we have the equipment prior to storms ready to clear ditches, clean all of the stormwater drains, and not just provide sandbags. We need more. If you have to put in the budget that you need to hire more people in public works or go contract other people to make sure that the stormwater drains, particularly in the Sugar Forest area, are clean, then I would suggest that you do that, which is why we need a committee to make sure that we oversee that it is getting done. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Heather Curry. Hi, Heather. Welcome.
I'm super nervous.
Ah, don't be nervous. It's all good. I see what you're wanting to talk about, and then I think you probably already talked to the city attorney, and that process is in its full swing as we can get it.
Yeah, I still want to share my story.
Sure, go right ahead.
Because it's really important to me that this doesn't fall through the cracks.
It's understood.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Where are you?
He's got your back.
Okay, my name is Heather Curry. I lived at 832 Sugar House with my 2 daughters, Maya and Ava. I'm here to speak to you about the hoarder who resides in Sugar Forest. I understand tonight that there's movement on this, but I still want you to hear my story so you understand the importance. The hoarder who is bringing more and more items into there. I want to give you a perspective from someone who had their life altered from him, to talk to you not because I'm tired of seeing his trash, but because that trash cost me everything I own. I moved to Sugar Forest, I moved to Florida in June of 2021. I came to Florida on the heels of losing my husband, Brian, my girl's dad. I searched for a place that I could breathe in again, that was free of memories at every corner, a place my girls and I could start fresh in. We found that place in a quiet neighborhood of Port Orange. We found a neighborhood where we could walk our dogs safely at night, a neighborhood where it had neighbors like Chuck, Rose, Jim, Joanne, Joan, and Carl, who looked after us and our safety. The only hiccup this neighborhood had was my immediate neighbor, a man who I assumed was harmless. My dad raised me to believe in karma and always take the high road, to show grace to everyone. So despite the mountain of trash, we stayed secure in our bubble of peace and let him be him and us be us. As the months went on, his behavior amped up. We got to watch him go to the bathroom in cups and then dump the contents in front of our house. We got to come home and see him in his car in his driveway having sex with prostitutes. We got to listen to his friends who cornered us when we would get in our cars. We got to watch his friends change clothes in their driveways, and then we got to watch him sleep in his driveway because his pile of trash was so large that he couldn't get into his home. We got to watch him put poop in neighbors' mailboxes who made him mad. We got to watch him walk up and down the street with guns. We got to watch Chuck and other neighbors time and time again call code enforcement and ask for your help. Nothing was ever done. This man, for whatever reason, is untouchable. You would think after losing my husband and being a widow that I had suffered through the worst of things. I was so wrong. After having to leave our home during Ian for massive flooding, we were safely tucked away in Chuck's house. Wait, are you going to cut me off?
Just wrap up your final thoughts.
Okay.
You're doing
Then, well, it's kind of long. But then at 5:30, 3 days later, we were woken to someone banging on Chuck's door. When we opened it, we saw that there was a fire. Now I'm nervous. Not small flames, but a full-on black smoke flames. The next thing I see is Chuck going to the neighbor's house to be sure they're okay. My girls saw me break for the first time. I held my strength through the loss of my husband, the loss of my stepdad, the loss of my sister, and now what was bringing me to my knees was the loss of every item I had kept to make a home a home. As if we hadn't lost enough, here we were losing our home and possessions. I then looked up face to face with the hoarder who had pulled a lawn chair out into the street and was stretched out in it, hands behind his head and a smirk on his face as he watched everything burn. I was losing everything because of him, and he was sitting there smirking. The fire chief came and checked on me, and from what I remember, all I could do was sob because we were losing all of Brian's things. We were losing cards he had written to his girls, his clothes, pictures, everything. Everything that's irreplaceable. What the fire chief did next forever altered that day, and is the only good thing I see in Port Orange. He asked me where those items were, and he went in and got them.
Heather, I gotta wrap you
Okay.
up. But here, listen to me for a second. I know you're nervous, and this was a big thing for you to
No,
come up and do that. This is my card right here. It's got my number on it. I want to hear everything you got to say about it, because I can tell that that's part of the process that is going to help you, and I can assure you that we are doing everything we can to rectify this. You guys have been more than patient. You guys have been more than patient. The process is not a favorable process for city or for those residents. So, okay. Can you grab this for you?
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather, very much.
Yeah, take mine. Okay. Hey, Mark. Chuck.
Yeah, right. Thank you for supporting our Chuck.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, council comments. Let's start with Lance tonight.
Me?
Yes.
All right, so a couple things, I guess, just for starters, and we've been getting a lot of emails about the fluoride thing, and I don't know where we stand on that issue, but I would like, I guess, for us to investigate into this a little bit further as to where we go moving forward. So I don't know if that's something that we need to put on an agenda. Also this week I had a meeting with some guys from the cable company about the struggle getting permits in the right-of-ways, and we as a city are holding up 100 permits of repairs and so on, and I just like to know that Wayne, we're looking into this, and Matt, we're looking into whatever we have to look into to help them get their permits. We don't want any responsibilities or any unjust liabilities by somebody not having a phone or whatever necessities they need by their cable being down by something that we've held them up. So I'd like to see us at least look into this issue a little bit further and make sure we're doing what we need to be doing on that respect. That's all I got tonight.
Sean?
So I just want to say I appreciate you coming up here and sharing your story, because it's the first time I've heard it, unfortunately. And this is only my third meeting on the council. So bringing us up to speed on that, I'm just really sad that one, you got flooded, the other, you got someone living next to you that's not desirable. I've been in real estate for 30 years and insurance for 13, and I've seen all of this, and it's really sad, and I hope that we can do our part to remedy it. I know, unfortunately, these things take a lot of time through the process and the legal process, but I appreciate you coming up and sharing. In reference to the fluoride, I've had many comments sent to me via email in reference to fluoride, and I think we should add it on the agenda so we can actually talk about it as a council. I want to say that flooding, it's a terrible thing to have happen. I think one of your house is flooded twice, Councilman Foley.
2 for 2.
And those, we're looking at the historical flooding amounts that have happened, and if we get a week's worth of rain, is your house flooding? If it's not, then things are working. But when we get the amount of rain that we get in a short period of time, and I've drove through this town, I've got video of it, this water had nowhere to go. And it's really unfortunate that in the past, this community was developed without not thinking that we could have hurricanes dropping 24 inches of rain in 12 hours, or vice versa, 24 hours of 12 inches of rain. It just has nowhere to go. And being in that business, I understand it, and it doesn't make it better for your flooded house. And I love the fact that this city is working with the flood advisory group, and we're doing these studies, and there's going to be money available, and we're going to do everything we can to figure out a way to combat that. But it's hard to combat that kind of amount of rain in that short a period of time, and it has nowhere to go, and it's going to flood homes. It's just really lousy for you and for anyone that's been flooded, even our council members. And so we're going to look at it really hard. Tomorrow night, this meeting is not for us, it's for you to come speak to the staff and talk to them about your concerns. That's what it's for. A couple people have mentioned, will you be there? It's not our meeting, it's your meeting with our staff. So please take advantage of that. Let people know about it. They need to hear from you. Like they came and told us, they need to hear from you so they can help address this. We are willing to give them the tools they need to be successful. I can guarantee you that. So with that being said, I want to commend our staff over the holiday season. It was, after going through the hurricane losses and all that, there's some joy in the holidays. The last meeting we had was on December 10th. They did a fantastic job, getting the city we had an event over there at a tree lighting ceremony, and it was packed, and then the parade and all the good things that you guys at REC did a great job. Also attended another asset to our community was Halifax Health opened up a hospital down on Williamson for an emergency room. It's a fantastic location. If you get an opportunity to go check it out, it's a huge asset for quality of life and care in our community, and it was nice to attend that. Also want to say something to our police department. We added 3 new employees there, and I think we're close to fully staffed, so congratulations there, Chief, and got to attend those swearing-in ceremonies and a recognition of some great work done by your staff throughout the community, so appreciate that. And I'll have some comments on some of the committees I sit on, but that's all I have. So thanks for coming out and sharing your stories with us. It's very important. That's what this is about.
Councilman Grubbs.
I'm going to say
You're getting more mobile on us. That looks good.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting to spin around. Hopefully be able to stand here on both legs here in the next couple of weeks. But it's since December 10th, we've got quite a bit of things that have happened inside the city. I want to thank city staff for monumental process that we have been trying since I've been elected and appointed of dealing with sidewalks. All of Town West sidewalks being completed, Town Park being completed. Thank you. I can't extend that enough. It shows that when we got new staff on board and management of those directors going forward, it's these little stories that the city doesn't see. You just want to know that things get done. We had one entity that was taking care of sidewalks and they weren't taking care of it. So when we changed staff and we got a new director in play, we got 3 people to do sidewalks now. And then we take the budget and we inflate the budget to go and take care of that. And it's nice to see those things coming together and actually getting completed. So thank you for those 2 major areas that desperately need it. And I know there's other areas inside the city that need it. It's done on a basis, that click it and ticket. It's a great process. And we talk about this for the click it and ticket, and people think they put it in there and it disappears and it never gets to be seen again. It's in a category of line items. So sometimes it's a process of time and budgets of being able to take care of that. Saying that, dealing with budgets, we talked about Hurricane Ian a little bit tonight, and then we know that that's almost 2.5 years ago, and we just got funding back from FEMA from 2.5 years ago. People talk about the process of what we have to do to try to deal with permittings and things of that nature, but we just finally got some of our funding money back, $1.7 million. That was on the consent agenda tonight. I hope that as council, we take these milestone money that we are getting in finally. It goes to 100% to Stormwater as we push forward. It's $1.7 million. We have a Riverwalk project hopefully coming and being finally signed, inked, put to bed, so Riverwalk is going. That takes a $4 million burden off of the city. But it also adds a total of a little over $5 million to the city budget also that we bring in off of that after the $4 million is paid back. So that in tune will be $6.5 million sitting there for these water management projects that we desperately need. And then we have the Reed Canal property was another $1 million. I know Councilman Green talked about that back in December, of those properties being sold. So in total, we would have right at $7.5 million to push forward. These projects we're talking about are $7 and $10 million a piece. This is one major way of taking monies and proceeds that we make on these land sales and things that we do to be able to fund these projects, because if we wait for state and federal funding that we're asking for desperately, we know that just being paid back from Ian, it's 2 years. And we can't wait 2 years. We know that. We know that we have a great staff and they push forward and to build engineering and proper engineering, but those engineering projects have to be tested and done so we don't flood other areas. We don't want to fix one problem with it flooding out another area also. That would be just detrimental to funding plus those citizens. So when Wayne comes up here, and I told him I was going to have him speak, I'm just going to take care of it for him, and he'll thank me later probably. We talk about projects hitting a threshold of 60% completion. What 60% completion means that it's been designed by our teams, it's been designed and went through the engineering process, and it is ready to go except for that last 40%. That 40% is actually out of our hands. It is state, DOT, Army Corps of Engineers, St. John's Water Management. It has to go through all those permitting process. So when they start talking about things being only 60%, please understand that it's not the city holding it up. We have to get hold of our state representatives, our county representatives, and ask for assistance from them to try to get this permitting process done so we can get these projects green light, ready to go. It looks like we got the money now. I mean, it's on the way. It's just getting the permitting so we can start some of these projects to try to help the communities of Sugar Forest and communities just like you inside the older neighborhoods of Port Orange. As an elected official, we come up here and we sit and we get handed the problems of the city to try to figure out as safely as best we can with the dollars that we have. Nobody wants to hear about raising budgets. It's detrimental to the community and also the taxpayers. We try to figure out how to save as much money as we can to make these projects happen, that it's not putting impacts and burdens onto the citizens. But that's also why sometimes we have to wait just a little to try to get federal and state dollars to assist with these projects. It's an ongoing battle. I know y'all hear this all the time, but one of the things I want to make sure is that we talk about these every time I have a chance, because it seems to be people sometimes think if we don't mention it, that we're not doing anything about it, and that is the least of the possibilities. We are always worried about it, trying to figure out how to make these happen to make the city better. The big ones are hard. I think that's the problems, and it's history that I've been learning over the last 2 years. What's happened over the last 30 years of councilmen sitting up here, excuse the expression, passing the buck. And I hope with new council and council that's been here with me, that when I came in, that we can take and figure out how to get the funding to stop this from happening. It is my goal is to hopefully that we can all come together and figure out funding properly and engineering properly to solve the flooding issues that we have at hand. 10 and 11 inches of rain is okay. 15 inches is hard. 20, we'll never be able to build to that code. I know Mayor Stiltner has talked about that. There's no way that we can build to those codes because the whole entire city would be a big lake dug out to solve those mitigation of that water. So we do have plans in place. Councilman Gephardt said it. The meeting tomorrow is for y'all to come out and discuss it with staff. Council won't be there because it is for y'all to be with staff to see these problems and reside problems that you see. I cannot stress enough, I've met with a few individuals of how the importance is, how did the water start coming in on your side of the property? You have elevation plans, we see elevation plans, but what's reality? Where did it come from? What area did it come from? So they're not missing something as they go forth out onto the properties to try to resolve it. So please, if you have concerns with it, please show up to this meeting to stress your concerns to staff so they can hear it, so we can have solutions on top of the solutions that we're trying to fix. Two other things that I have real quickly is Wayne, we briefly talked about this one. We have a citizen on 500 Hamlet Drive that in the easement of the city, they put up a cell tower pole that's supposedly a 5G repeater. My question to that is, when they permit things that way, is do they go in and show a diagram of what it's going to be looking like? And if it's in a community, can they put it in common areas instead of on somebody's corner of their house? We now have a 5G pole sitting up in the easement. Common areas would be less evasive or eyesores as we go forward. And then lastly, if you have not been underneath the Dunlawton Bridge on the east side, what we've better known as the Down Under Project, Art House started the first segment of a very comprehensive columns and murals that is being done. Art House came in and painted all the major columns underneath, just a beautiful blue, and now they're going to be going, not this week, it's too cold, can't imagine, stenciling out all the fish and mural designs it's going to be going over. So over the next month, the transformation of those columns is just going to be pretty remarkable. Hometown News has already been contacted. They'll be coming out and taking pictures and keeping that up for the citizens to see what's happening with Down Under project also. That's it.
Excellent. How about it, Councilman Foley?
My goodness. Let's see here. I made so many notes, I don't know where to start. First off, I noticed in the weekly that the developer of Madeline Commons is bringing something forward to our planning commission that I'm really excited about, involving rapid flashing beacons there at near the school. And so I just want to say thank you for that proactive approach. I'm not sure if that was related to the PTA or the school board or what it was, but either way, I appreciate any chance we have to be proactive, especially when it comes to safety and especially children's safety. So thank you to everyone involved for that. Also, speaking of safety, I want to say thanks to Wayne and to our fire chief. Appreciate you, Joe. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding on a property, a church that's actually working on putting in a school for autistic children, and they were trying to get that up to fire code. There was just a little bit of miscommunication. They ironed that out and made everyone happy. I had a lot of phone calls before, and I had a lot of phone calls after saying thank you. So thank you to you guys as well for moving on that so quickly. I just want to briefly touch on the letters that you guys are receiving from FEMA, because I want to make sure, and I don't want to overstep and pretend to be overly educated on this matter. It feels like these goalposts have been moved on city staff, on elected officials, on residents. But when you see, the emails coming from Valerie, she works here and she's doing her job, just like all of us have to do. It's just like the code thing. Heather, your story is heartbreaking. And I'm so sorry for all you've been through, especially with what you've had to live through there. I've had some small code issues in my neighborhood that are obviously, grass is too tall as nothing compared to what you guys have had to deal with in that neighborhood. They're just, at the end of the day, we are not the all-powerful being in the United States government system. We have things that we have to do, and we have rules we have to follow. And part of those rules help us receive funding to do projects for our citizens. Valerie is not typing this letter up and sending it out to you because it's Valerie's decision. She's doing it because FEMA says you have to do this, you have to send these out to these letters, and so she is doing her job. And so I will defend her on that regard. And that's not to say, that's not to say that there's not things that can be said nicer or better information. I'm not mean saying that. At the end of the day, we have a lot of people here on staff, and they're good people who are working really hard to try to service our residents. And sometimes we end up with the not fun job, even from these seats that we have here. So on the fluoride thing, it sounds like you guys would like to discuss that. I would be okay with just getting some more information from the city as to what we have going on. If you guys really want to bring it forward as an item, that I'm not going to fight you on that. But I would just like some more information, Wayne. I know I'd already mentioned to you I'd like to get some details. So, that's up to you guys as to whether or not you want it to be a full item or if you just want to have him and staff provide us with some information or not. Maybe we can discuss that amongst ourselves, I suppose. And then last two things, I'm really excited about the food trucks coming to Riverwalk. I think that'll be really cool to have out there. It's going to open up, sounds like March, maybe April, and that should bring some things down there for people to go do and really take advantage of that riverfront. I know that's just a small step in what we want to see down there, but in the meantime, I think that'll be awesome. And finally, I want to say thank you to all our crews that are out there doing the maintenance on the Cambridge Canal. It's always good to be ahead of things and be proactive again and maintain those things. So I want to say thank you to everybody involved in that.
All right, very good. All right. It's been a while since we've met, and there's been a lot of stuff going on. Josh, I wanted to ask you if you could send me a picture if it's an FP&L owned pole. I just went through this on a poll myself, so having gone through that process, there should be an FP&L placard on there with the FP&L number. Does that pole have one?
Yep.
If you'll take a picture of that, if you'll send that to me, I think I could probably help you out with that. I kind of found a shortcut through that process inadvertently But I'll see what I can do to help rectify that one if you'll send that one to me.
Excellent.
So recently, I attended the legislative delegation meeting over in DeLand and took forward our projects that we are taking up to Tallahassee here. Well, they've actually already been submitted, but as you guys know, legislative session in Tallahassee is underway. We will be going up there as an elected body, those that can make it, as well as our city staff. In fact, we've got staff going up there this week. But then in March, we'll be going up there as well to advocate for state dollars and funding. We will not be alone. There was a very, very constant theme from all over Volusia, Lake, and I believe part of St. Johns County is connected to one of the House representatives that was in DeLand at the meeting, and it's a consistent theme of stormwater mitigation projects, very, very consistently. So there's going to be a lot of competition for dollars in the state of Florida for stormwater mitigation projects all over the state. In addition to that, we had a roundtable of elected officials meeting. It was really, really good meeting. Every single city in Volusia County talked about stormwater and flood mitigation. This is not a Port Orange issue. This is a statewide issue all over the state of Florida. It is definitely all over Volusia County. One of the things that came out of that meeting, couple of things actually. One is the formation of a countywide committee that is being put together. It will be co-chaired by County Councilman Jake Johansson and Mayor Nancy Miller from Daytona Beach Shores. And every municipality will have a representative on the committee. And part of it has to do with a lot of these projects, like Councilman Grubbs talked about, they're very large in scale. And there needs to be some measures in place to know what everybody's doing and how one project could affect another municipality, because we're seeing that. We look forward for that committee. In addition to that, some of the projects regionally are so big, we're talking federal dollars. When we start talking about additional outfalls into the river and moving water faster out of the inlet, which is where it's all got to go at some point, you're talking federal dollars and Army Corps of Engineers and things like that. So, in fact, the only city that wasn't actually there represented, I was going to say Daytona, but the mayor of Daytona wasn't there, but they were represented. So anyhow, that roundtable elected officials meeting was very beneficial, and I'll keep you guys posted as that moves forward. As I mentioned earlier tonight, the well-awaited stormwater master plan for the city is just about wrapped up, right, Wayne?
Yes, sir.
Pretty good. You can chime in if you want. And so what we've been waiting on that is for that plan to be wrapped up so that there's a comprehensive understanding the entire municipality. If you guys are following along in the news, you're seeing a lot of cities in Volusia County are just starting to even get that study going. It takes about 12 to 18 months to complete those studies in some of the cities around Volusia County. Some of what we hope will come together is not only can we model some of our own plans and projects, but also bordering municipalities that are doing projects, being able to model that, how those things may affect and impact Port Orange as well, and vice versa. So that will be good. And so staff will be meeting with individual council folks, and you guys will be going through some pretty comprehensive information with Kimley Horn. And I think they're working to get everybody scheduled on that.
Got my appointment.
Through February, got yours all set up? Good.
Set up.
And then we will be bringing that to the public in March, and that'll be a good workshop to have for sure. And I was just going to comment on the FEMA requirements. I appreciate Councilman Reed touching base on that. If folks have more questions about that, they really need to contact our department staff. But I can echo what Councilman Foley is talking about. We have to comply with the FEMA stuff. And I tell you, I will add this to what Councilman Foley said.
Right.
Not only do we cautiously have to apply or follow those guidelines from FEMA, it actually touches the city attorney's office to make sure that everything we are sending out and everything we are doing follows what is required, so that the municipality, all of us collectively, don't get in trouble with FEMA, because we don't want that. Because when bad things happen, we have to have those FEMA support and those FEMA dollars. We have to have that. The only way you have that is you have to follow the FEMA guidelines and requirements that they set forth. Now, if you don't like the guidelines and requirements, here's the one thing that I can tell you. This is not necessarily good news, but it's news. We just had a new president get sworn in yesterday, and the one thing that we know about FEMA is it changes a lot every time there's a new president and a new federal elected body that takes control in Washington, D.C. That frustrates staff and it frustrates all of us because you got to learn new things. And so we've seen that over the years with storm debris and all those different kinds of things. So there may be changes, there may be more changes forthcoming. FEMA's a federal agency, folks. We don't control FEMA, but we do have to follow FEMA. So, all right, I think that's all I've got on those items for right now. Citizen Advisory Board for TPO, Bobby Ball.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Doing good. With the CAC for TPO, we had our first meeting in a couple of months with the holidays. Pretty standard stuff, really, for the most part, with minor updates to the tip and things like that. But one thing I want to point out is the DOT did talk about their 5-year work program, and a couple of projects that are on there for Port Orange is the widening design of Williamson Boulevard from Madeline to Town West, as well as the widening design for Madeline at Nova, intersection improvements at Madeline and Nova, and at Nova and Dunlawton. And we also had a presentation on the long-range transportation plan, which is coming up again. They do it every 5 years, so that process is starting now. And then lastly, DOT's report, a couple of projects that I know you guys have been aware of and following. The Nova drainage system has been finished as far as cleaning goes. And the new traffic signal at Miles and Nova is starting now. And that's all I've got.
Bobby, on that Williamson project, I had a resident tell me that they had heard the same thing about that, where it was, but they seem to be convinced that it included all of a sudden the overpass. That's not part of the plan, right?
It wasn't mentioned, but I can find out from the staff. And
I mean, that'd be great if something has changed, and that's.
Tim was telling me it does include it in that. It doesn't mean that they got money to build it, but it's now actually being talked about as part of the plan.
Okay.
Which is the first step. You got to get it in the plan.
Yeah, that is an exciting thing to hear out loud.
That is excellent, because that wasn't even on the radar.
So we always talk about that 60% we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's right.
you're talking about it now.
Yep.
When's the magical date for that? Not
They
to put you behind the
they-
eight ball
they're-
on that.
According to the DOT, it's the design has been added for fiscal year 25-26. So
Okay.
the end of next year, the design will be complete. That's the plan. And then at that point, then they're pursuing funding opportunities.
Tracy, you're reminding me of when Federal Chair Powell said we're not even thinking about.
Right.
Yeah, sounds like that.
Questions for Bobby?
So
We're
Bobby,
talking
you're
about
saying,
it.
so right now, the project's underway to widen Williamson from Madeline north to Bevel, right?
Yes, the county's already doing that design.
Yeah.
Design, or is it already underway, or is it,
Construction, no, design.
oh, okay, just
Yes.
design? And so the next step is just going from Madeline to,
Town West, yeah. From a
Really?
design perspective, yes.
okay.
Yeah, the bush hogging and clearing they're doing right now is just standard grass cutting.
Okay, nice.
That overpass price tag,
Oh, yeah.
wow. But I mean, it's got to get done. It's got to get done, but it is a huge price tag. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Appreciate you. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. You look just like the guy from TPO.
So we had our quarterly meeting tonight. We didn't have it in October. We didn't have a quorum, so it was a fun, exciting night for us. I am super excited. I'm pretty low key. I'm a golfer. I don't range much on the emotions, but tonight's a good night. We got our first update on the bond update. We're already spending money or not spending money yet. We're also already working on designs. A couple of the projects right out of the box are being designed for Willow Run Boulevard, the park at the school there, and then the White Place is also starting as well. So we're super excited about that. We also had a quick little update on the rec center. At the last meeting, I asked staff if they would help us out with understanding where some of the folks are coming from as far as the rec, and about 27% of the daily check-ins are coming from west of 95, which is interesting just from the standpoint of the bond update that I just mentioned has a rec center on the west side. Right. So of the 6,000 per month, we got 1,500 of them coming from the west side. So that's good for the the prospect of the future on the rec center on the west side. We got a director's report. I don't know how Sue does it. She's got at least 10 major projects that the city's undertaking all at one time, from restroom additions, the parks office, new lights at different fields, Causeway Park, City Center Park is getting redone, the ball field lights, the sod and clay on the different fields, the amphitheater seating, skate park lights, and disc golf at Bushman. So, and I'm sure there's more. We just didn't have a lot of time. So, pretty cool stuff there. From an athletic perspective, all of the programs have more participants this year than last year. So, we've never said we have enough fields. We still don't have enough fields. So, something to point out there. And then there's a huge number of special events, from the special needs King and Queen's dance to senior prom to the Royal Ball. They're all on the city's website and on your events calendar. It's a pretty cool place to be living.
Yeah, I think so.
That's all I've got.
I'll be at the Kings and Queens dance this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that.
There you go.
Good stuff.
Any questions?
I'll say about it.
Thank you.
Bobby. Item 12, second reading of ordinance number 2024-25. City Attorney?
An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan capital improvement element, providing for the FY 2025 to 2035 year schedule of capital improvements and supporting data, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances and resolutions, providing for severability and an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2024-25.
I'll second.
So, second reading, any comments from you guys?
I have none on it.
No?
I have
Any
none.
comments from the public? Back to council? No? All right, call the roll.
Easy one.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Stiltner?
Yes, 5-0. Item 13, first reading of ordinance number 2025-01.
The applicant would like to continue this item if it's okay with council. They've requested
Okay.
a continuance without a date certain, just a continuance.
Understood, we'll continue that without date certain.
Do we need a
Right.
motion to continue it or no? Clerks?
Robin, do we need a
Robin,
motion
do we
to
need a
continue
motion
it,
to
or-
continue it?
No?
They voluntarily pulled it, so I don't
they're-
think they-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, just,
good enough.
just asking.
Regular agenda item 14, first reading of ordinance number 2025-02. Mr. Attorney.
An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 54, Article 6, 2003 General Employees Retirement System, amending Section 54-175, defined contribution retirement plan to rely on the plan adoption agreements approved by City Council, describing the terms applicable to each of the plans, providing for codification, conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Move to approve item 2025-2, ordinance number 2025-2.
I'll second it.
Matt, did you want to
I
speak on
can,
this?
yeah, I
Go
can
ahead.
touch on this one. This was actually a recommendation by our pension council, kind of on his way out. He's retiring. He's earned it, but he gave this suggestion. We already adopt our contribution plans by plan agreement, so we do that by resolution. They control the plan. The contribution plans themselves are sometimes found in employment contracts. They're also there's one in union contracts. So this is an ordinance that's been there, probably hasn't been updated in many years, and it just is going to cause more potential for conflicts. Rather than having to amend this ordinance, every time that we go forward with either union negotiations or an employment contract change, this will allow us to be a little bit more flexible. It's a single reading by resolution. You'll adopt any plan agreement itself, and that will control. So this is a cleanup item.
Council, any questions?
No.
Anybody in the public have any questions or comments? Back to council one more time. Last chance.
Nope.
All right, call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Stiltner?
Yes, 5-0. Item 15, adoption of Port Orange City Council local rules and procedures for 2025. Wayne, who's presenting on this? Anybody? You?
We gave you, based on the conversation you've had in the past, we made the modifications. It included a sample agenda in there where we move the comments on consent outside of consent, remove the requirement for that, move Matt and I's comments up to follow your comments. And then there's a couple other clarifications the attorney has added if you want him to go into that basically consistency with some state laws that have been modified. So we have to.
Anything on this?
So just that, since I've been on council, I've been complaining about the need for an agenda approval when we already have an agenda.
Critiquing.
Yeah, no, complaining is the right word. I'll own it 100%. But either way, we have this sample agenda that was sent to us. I thought this was really improved a lot. I don't want people to think that they are missing the opportunity to have comments on the consent agenda items, and I want it very clearly stated that's what we're trying to accomplish during there. And then we have the consent agenda. Obviously, we still have that ability to pull items if we need to. We don't need that extra step. The only thing that I had thought after looking this is, would it make sense to also just combine Section D and Section E, council comments and additional items? Could those just go to be all one segment where you have council comments, concerns, city attorney, city manager if they have items? Otherwise, I think this is great. And everything else I read in the local rules on the markup, obviously that's been a little bit of whiplash because we had to take some things out because they were deemed, I don't know if it was unconstitutional is the right word, but they were not supposed to be allowed, or we weren't allowed to have those rules, and then ta-da, we are allowed to have them. So, but yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about combining D and E together and kind of titling that something, but otherwise, I like the sample agenda the way it came in.
Tracy, thoughts?
It clarifies a lot of stuff. It puts it back in proper order. I have to agree with Councilman Foley. The D&E, I'm okay with that, putting it that way. It allows us to be in the agenda as we go forward through it, that it's cleaning up the process. We're not having to go back and forth on it. So, yes, I'm good.
Okay. Sean?
So, back to D&E, basically it would just be D, right?
Yeah,
and
correct.
We would all be able to.
You'd probably title it something like council, council and staff comments or something.
Just comments and additional items.
Comments and additional items.
Titles would be clarified.
Yeah, and the other thing about having it all there too is, in the event we have something that came up that, clerk needs to speak, or someone else in staff, has something important, could be a great place to put it if it's all together there.
My thought on that initially to do this, and I'm totally fine with that, by the way, but my thought on that was what I've seen over and over and over again, especially if we have an issue that's real, brings out a lot of folks out, a lot of people want to talk about things. We don't engage during their time. A lot of times they leave before we do get a chance to respond, and then even worse is the city attorney and the city manager so far down the list, they may have something really pertinent to add to that discussion, and people are long gone by the time we get to their comments. So what I'd hoped is moving them up, and what I'll do is as I'm running the meetings or whatever, we'll do council first, and then after we've all spoke, then we can go right to the two of them. So
And
that's
that was a great thought. When I first saw that, I thought, well, that's silly, because usually what ends up being spoken by the manager or the attorney, is it's usually something that not necessarily most people are here to care about.
Yeah.
But it is good that they follow right up. So if they do have an answer and they want to give it quickly, it's available. So that was a really good thought by you.
Well, and to that, and the one that is probably the most uncomfortable, because I know we'll all have our turn in that, but if we misspeak, I think it's really critically important to either Matt have an opportunity or Wayne have an opportunity in short order to say, I just want to clarify X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And that's totally fine, because I think we all have that same intention.
Right.
We want the best information, the most accurate information
That's
to
right.
our residents, so that's what we're trying to do.
I'm good. We're on the right path.
All right. Anybody in the public wish to speak about the item? You gotta come up. You gotta come up. You gotta come up. Okay. Come on up, Robert. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you, sir.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive North, Port Orange. With regard to the consent agenda, page 3, it says, local rules of procedure. Those items of a controversial nature or those that need an explanation will not be placed on the consent agenda. And maybe it's just my perspective as a, as a citizen. I just don't feel there's enough background information on a lot of the items that come up on the consent agenda. And so I have to end up asking lots of questions. Just tonight, item 7, A, B, and C. Item 7A starts on page 8. And it goes all the way to page 2,938. I can't even pretend that I read it. I struggled through it an awful lot and had to ask some questions. There's a list of things that I had here that the first of all is it's $21 million. That's a lot of money to me. And it seems to me we need a better explanation sometimes, things like that. And it talked about some sort of a guaranteed maximum price and a construction manager risk service. And that's not a kind of contract that I've ever heard about before. And so I'm just saying that it sure would be nice if there'd be more background information. And things like that, I think, should be on the regular agenda rather than the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak on it? All right, just checking. All right, back to council. Any other comments on that? I will just say that, from my experience on council, and I appreciate Robert's comments, they're always welcome, is that if somebody sees something, the agenda goes out before the meetings. Mm-hmm. So if people typically see something, they want more discussion, they've got more concerns or whatever, all they got to do is reach out to any council member and say, hey, can you answer these questions? Sometimes you can answer them right away. Same thing with staff. If people see things on an agenda, they can reach out to staff prior to a meeting and say, can you give me some clarity on this? And I got to tell you, I think staff's pretty good at that. So for those that want to do that or need to do that, that is an option. And of course, I want to make sure you guys always know if there's something on a consent, a resident has reached out to you and you think it does need to be discussed more, we'll pull it off consent. You just need to bring that up. Right. That's never really been a problem. It's been a pretty easy thing to do. So the idea of the consent is to try to move the meetings along and in a smooth fashion so that, people that are here for other things that want to get up and talk about, we kind of can not be here till midnight. But if we have to be, we will be. So no big deal on that. Mm-hmm. All right, on item 15, we don't need a roll call, right?
There was no motion.
You do want a roll call on that? Oh, that's right.
All right. What are we? Because it's kind of hard.
To the sample with the change.
Right.
Yeah, but what about and what about the rest of local rules?
Well, we'll let you make the motion since.
That's what. Yeah, that's what.
There's only the one change that you brought up, right?
So.
Motion
Okay.
as presented plus your change.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the local rules as presented, with the exception of combining sections D and E in the sample agenda to be one section, and renumber and lettered accordingly.
Any further discussion on that? Call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Stelter?
Yes, 5-0. Additional items.
Excuse me, who seconded?
Tracy.
Tracy.
Thank you.
Additional items, City Attorney?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Great report.
Mr. City Manager?
So in light of the conversation on having us follow you immediately,
Everybody's left.
Most of the people have left, but there's still some of them here. For tomorrow night's meeting, the vulnerability assessment is the purpose of the meeting tomorrow night. We did not come up with that name. That's part of a state name, so whatever people's take on whatever words get used. So there's a program in the state of Florida called Resilient Florida. And the legislature funded a bunch of money into this Resilient Florida program to help public infrastructure and other areas be built more resilient to flooding. And they did this because people kept coming to Tallahassee and saying, Port Orange wants $2 million for this drainage project, DeLand wants $2 million for theirs, Daytona wants $2 million, and you end up with these line item political battles over who gets it in the budget, and then the governor has to go through. So the governor, and there's been a lot of conversation, the governor's office did not tell us they don't support drainage projects. They told us we've put millions of dollars into Resilient Florida. Go get your money there. Don't come and get line items from us in the legislature. So he supports them by putting the money in that format. So that's what that is. You can't get to that money if you don't have a vulnerability assessment done. And the match is 50-50 on any, you're still competitive. Like, just because we put it in the vulnerability assessment doesn't mean we get automatically. But our projects then become eligible for a 50% match. So the purpose of tomorrow night's meeting, and it is a open house format. It's not sit in the audience and come up to the microphone. It's going to be go tell individuals what happened at your house in your neighborhood. Help us understand how you flooded, why you think you flooded, what's wrong, because we're trying to build better data on what happened so that we can then put together projects that will solve those problems going forward. And as everybody talked about, you've heard there's a lot of overlapping planning things going on. So we have a stormwater master plan that is also doing some of that. So we didn't have a digital master plan of the city. So we went in and modeled everything east of the interstate where we had most of our flooding. And so we went in and modeled those areas and then tested a variety of solutions. So in addition to that model, which will give us specifically computer tested improvements to things, we'll have the vulnerability assessment, which should overlap and support the stormwater master plan. At the same time, we have a third planning project going on. The county has, through its Transform 386 funding, some extra money. They are helping do a regional watershed assessment study or drainage basin study. So in Port Orange, we have, everybody knows the Nova Canal is one of our drainage basins, everything that goes into it. We have the B19 drainage basin over sort of the central part. We have Spruce Creek, which is mostly the south central area, and then the fourth one is Halifax, everything that's close to the water. Every one of those drainage basins, everything in them drains to the one area and out. We have major problems with the Nova Canal drainage basin. It's a regional issue. So the county's running that project. That's just starting, but that'll help us come up with regional solutions as well as local on that. So all of those are working together. The vulnerability assessment leads directly to state funding. The other projects lead to Transform 386 and other funding sources. So the variety of all these planning things, and I know there's various opinions on what planning is, but planning gets you money to help pay for it, and we could use to, leveraging the money of a variety of sources to help come up with all these solutions. So tomorrow night won't be similar to this where you walk up to a microphone and there's a body listening to you. It's going to be Juno and his staff and people who are the city engineer, the actual engineer. I just pretend to be one up here, but he's actually technically trained and competent and qualified to do this. They're going to be able to listen to you, and whether or not it's flooding of homes, flooding of businesses, whether it's issues with our sewer system or anything that's related to what might be vulnerable to flooding, so that we have a better idea, so that when solutions get proposed, they actually work. You want to go out there, and if you're going to put money into it, you want to make sure it works. So all of those things are going on. I just want to make that clear to anybody that hears it. Tomorrow night is an open house format. Walk up and talk to individuals. It's not a room, which is, I think a lot of you were trying to cover. It's not a come talk to the council about how we do our jobs or anything. It's specific to my neighborhood flooded. I had this much water in my house. This is why. So I want to make that clear. And then I know you guys covered a lot of the FEMA 50% rule, substantial damage discussion, but to let you know how some people probably want to know how, if you made a claim to FEMA, so the first group of homes that were visited around Thanksgiving were all people FEMA said to us, these people have made claims and we've sent them money. So that's how we ended up having to go do it. And as every one of you said, we're members of the National Flood Insurance Program by being a part of that, and that is how we get federal reimbursement. So every time we have one of these hurricanes, we spend about $7 million cleaning up all the stuff here and getting it out. And anything that gets damaged, anything that we have that gets damaged and we spend money on, whether it's policemen, firemen, whatever it happens to be, that reimbursement comes back to us because we're part of the NFIP. If we don't do these things that you spent a lot of time talking about, we don't get that money back. We end up having to pay for it ourselves. So that's where it's critical. A couple people mentioned this earlier. One of the steps that, and we do expect to see improvements out of FEMA in this next term, but The money that we just got at the end of last year was from Irma. That's a 2017 hurricane. $1.7 million, which we have put now in a fund it's part of building up that money to start paying for these stormwater projects. But that was Irma. To let you know how much better they've gotten, we already got all of our Ian and Nicole money back. So they're not taking 4 and 5 years now, they're doing better. So the Milton stuff hasn't really started. We were still in that window. Anything you do in the first 90 days, we're supposed to get 100% reimbursed. They extended the 90 days until I think it's like February 10th. So we got all of our debris removed. We've done all of our staff work. We've got it grinded up and removed. So we should be eligible to get this year's pile of $6 or so million back 100%. Probably see it more like a year to a year and a half, not several years down the road. So I think that's the most of the clarifications I had from the earlier conversations. If I missed anything that you guys were talking about, let me know.
No, great synopsis, even as fast as you talk. But yeah, I mean, we repeat this a lot, and it's a complex process. It's not our process, especially with the FEMA stuff, but we have to follow it. We're not talking little small amounts of money. The amounts of money that we're talking about are millions and millions of dollars. I mean, just since probably if you go back to the storms of 2004, I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars that already belongs to our taxpayers that we got to get it back. Yeah. And so while these situations like these letters that got to go out are uncomfortable and they create a lot of stress on people, it's not because the city thought that up. Right. Those are things that the federal government mandates us to do in a certain way, just like it's being done.
And I think one of the things you also have to say, Scott, is Matt will be mad at me for saying this. Those letters are very well drafted by attorneys, which means when you get this letter in the mail and you read it, there is nothing polite about it. And it scares you half to death.
Well, because it's got to pass the legal muster for FEMA.
Correct.
That's right. So, one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I don't expect Wayne to comment on it, but maybe he can, if he's had a chance to digest it and get with all of us individually. So recently the county council had a stormwater workshop. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the 10-hour long workshop, but it was right at 10 hours. But the last 45 minutes is really probably for other municipal elected officials where you need to kind of watch and see. But they did make a motion at the end, which was fairly convoluted, of about 6 or 7 things. But one of the things that I wanted to mention is there seems to be considerable interest and support, unified support at the county council level on doing everybody's best job to identify property anywhere in Volusia County that could be purchased to help and be part of a stormwater flood mitigation solution. So whether that's in the city, it's in the county, it doesn't matter. They've got some money that they want to earmark to doing that in that particular process. So hopefully we'll be seeing more about that. I've already asked the city manager, every single piece of property in Port Orange that is not currently built upon, developed, or whatever, whether we own it as the city or if it's owned privately, let's make sure we're at least taking a look at it. I do get residents from time to time that say, oh, you should buy this over here. Well, not every piece of property can help us. If there's lots of issues. If it's too low lying, if the water table's too high in that area, if there's no infrastructure to support a project in the area, there are lots of properties that just really cannot benefit us. But those that can, we want to look at that and identify that. And so I encourage you guys, if Wayne hasn't had a chance really to digest all that, maybe give him a few more days, but make sure you're having those discussions with him, because there's already a couple I've asked.
This new map that we're getting ready to get is going to really help that.
Yep.
Pinpoint, like you said, definite properties that, because there might be a property that doesn't help you.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Well, some of the ones that we have, we're trying to be a little bit careful too, because we want to make sure that we'll pay a fair price for the land, but we don't want to pay we've got the city and jack the price up. So there are some already in the master plan where we've got a handful of properties that we think would be very helpful going along the way. So we've got to balance we're required to be transparent as a government, but also not wanting to pay $5 million for a $2 million piece of property. But it is you guys are on top of it at 100%. Some of them are going to be way more valuable than others. Some of them people have come to us already and offered. Some of them even have structures on them now. So that's a little different than the other FEMA programs that are approaching the people to elevate their homes, or some of them may want to sell or demolish and rebuild. So that's also a voluntary program for individual homes. Every now and then, some of them will come to us, and the one we bought at Devon and Taylor ended up working out for us because that allowed us to move a lift station out of the middle of the road and put it on there. Plus, it was in an area where we had a canal we really had a hard time accessing with our equipment to get in there and do maintenance. And now we own a piece of property where we can drive right on it and get in there and do work. So you're absolutely correct. We're looking for properties that have that kind of value for us as we're moving forward, and think the county's funding will be a big help.
But on the downside of that, those properties come off the tax roll, right, Wayne?
Yes, sir.
They do,
Yeah.
for sure, no doubt. All right, council committee reports. This is
Left
good.
up
This
to
is
me,
your
right?
time,
This
man.
is my
This is
whole
all
time.
you. Why don't you take
Wonderful.
18 a.m. dude?
I'll do that.
All right.
Yep. So First Step Shelter, got to attend my first board meeting there. The topic mainly was around their largest fundraising event, which is the Daytona Beach Mayor's Gala, which is honoring 5 years of the First Step Shelter. So that's an event that's going on. There's a donor that's doing a match. Last year they matched up to $30,000. This year they're matching up to $50,000. So there's a lot of people behind and supporting this. I went out there last week to take a tour of First Step Shelter, and it's being used. It's very humbling, and there's definitely a need for it. And I think the biggest eye-opening experience I had was, you drive through these cities and you see people that are homeless, and they're maybe asking people for money, and you probably know that it's for something other than food or whatever their desires are, and you think, man, what are these guys doing, and why are they where they're at? And then you go out there and you see people who don't look anything like that guy on the corner. He looks like a normal person who, just some bad things have happened, and they need a place to be. And what goes on in that shelter is to get them out of the streets and to get them into a home, so they're not sleeping on someone's couch. And then when they get evicted out of that, they're not sleeping on the street. They end up at the shelter, but the opportunities that are there to help them get back into society and working, and the computers out there, and the training they're doing, it was really something to see, and I'm glad our city supports it, honestly. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce, nothing new to me. I've got, you guys are really busy, keep me busy. We had a morning mix and mingle at one of our long-standing apartment complex over there, Ocean Oaks, and had a great turnout. It was, I think, the first event of the year, and it was fantastic. And then we had our business after hours at the Tiki Adventure Park down on Nova Road, which is a new owner that owns that go-kart and baseball. They've put a lot of improvements into that facility for, like I say, quality of life issues. And if you have people who want to do an event, they've really done a great job down there. So we got to support them through our business after hours, and we have obviously the mayor's dinner coming up soon, and the chamber's doing great things. This morning I attended their new member reception. I think you had 9 new members there, or 7 new members. So they got a great staff doing helping business owners get exposure, and some wonderful things going on there. So keep up the good work, and proud to be a part of it. And I believe that's, I think, all I have. Thank you.
Excellent. Anything else to come before us tonight? We're all good. Have a good night.